So, unless you've been living under a rock and perhaps haven't heard about it, Polish developer CD Projekt Red just basically announcing that there will be a next installment of the, well, so-called Witcher 4. It's being built on the Unreal Engine 5, which is definitely going to be a huge step up from their Red engine, which was great, but still would take a lot of time to rework for this next game. Now, with The Witcher being as popular as it has become in the recent years, with the glorious game that is The Witcher 3, an incredible decent Netflix series, there is so much that CD Projekt Red can bring to the table with this upcoming game. It seems that a lot of other people are all over the internet have strong opinions on what they want to see in the next game, such as a new character creator, options so you can design your own main character and play as them, or maybe even more organic exploration like you can find in the Elden Ring. I've got a few opinions of my own and I wanted to talk a little bit about them. So without further ado, let's get right into the things that I would love to see from the next installment of the Witcher video game franchise. The one thing I've always wanted from the Witcher games was the choice that I could change the actual story of the game depending on my own choices that I make through the either the dialogue options or perhaps in-game actions. They could take a page out of the BioWare's book and turn this into a Mass Effect situation. Commander Shepard as their own character, and yet every decision that you make as Shepard truly alters the story of the game and unlocks so much new content for you to dive straight into. It's not to say that the Witcher games as the stories are usually set in stone and your decisions simply allow you to get to the different endings out of the 3 to 4 that they have, or get an alternative mission instead of the one that you would if you made the vanilla choices. This could be a really cool addition to the game, because if they're going to route off letting you have your own character, then making your own decisions would be a huge factor that would increase immersion. Branching narratives have never been done perfectly in the Witcher franchise and bring a huge potential with them. Since this wasn't a story focused on Geralt or Ciri, it should be more focused on optional amount of story-driven choices that's greatly impact the world around you and the characters as well. As much as I appreciate the story-driven focus that was in The Witcher 3, a new and refreshing take on a franchise could be that what separates from its predecessors. Not to mention it would extremely be unique and refreshing to make your own choices in the kind of a game. Seeing the impact that it has on its world will be quite something truly new. When it comes to the game's story, I want it to be a bit more about hanging out with other Witchers and fighting monsters perhaps we've never seen before. I kind of want it to be a prequel, before Geralt was a youngling and that was turned into a Witcher, or maybe even before Vasimir, when the Witchers weren't a rare breed. This would mean you'd have Kaer Morhen as an actual hub area where you can come in, relax and interact with the other Witchers. This would also give you an emphasis on getting to know other Witchers, and perhaps give CDPR more leeway into telling a story about the Witchers. The best thing about this route with their story and the world design is that there will be more monsters than ever. You could logically have vast variety of monsters, enemies and human enemies if this was done. Not to mention, if you have more monsters then you have more bosses to fight, and that's always a super fun in any game. They could design them with larger set pieces, bigger bosses, arenas and more locations that are always made to be explored, so you can find a boss at the end of that long hallway. The bosses should also be way more unique in terms of their design. I don't really want a rehashed and reskinned bosses coming again and again, nor do I want them to be level blocked for me. It would be cool if I had a choice to go over and fight any person or thing that I want in the game, and depending on my skills, I actually go ahead and beat them. I've heard that they're deciding on opting out of dragging Geralt's story more. So with this in mind, I feel like I have the perfect way to go about this. You see, I've always been interested in a game where you could explore the lands and the other Witchers as your companions. This is something I've always found very cool and interesting because it has multiple different variations on how this could work. First off, in the simplest and classic companion mechanics where you can find another NPC companion to go on travels with you. This would basically function just like the quests in The Witcher 3, where you had Triss in Novigrad or Yen in Skellige as your companions during them. If you want to dream a little bit, you could make this companion function a bit more like the Souls games. This would mean that you could summon other players into your world and have them aid you in a battle, or just have them hanging around with you and go out and exploring the continent by your side. This particular one is a bit tricky though. We don't know how CDPR will be able to implement this, and with their recent release of the Cyberpunk 2077 that was completely unfinished, I'm a bit scared that implementing this might have dire consequences. Though it is a fun feature that I wish it explored a bit more. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore the combat system in The Witcher 3. However, it got quite repetitive quite fast, and eventually just became doing more of the same. Though this can be easily be solved by reworking the combat system to the more of a challenging and more dependent on the weapons and skills that you choose to upgrade and level. This is an RPG game, so there's always be more stuff to upgrade and acquire. So the best thing to do in this situation is to revamp the whole repetitive gameplay. First things first, make sure that the weapons are unique and different to one another, and that they don't break. This way you have more unique weapons to try out and refresh the combat if you want. The other thing is to have unique special abilities in the game that you can tie into your weapons, and even your armor if you wish. This will give you an emphasis on the upgrading and changing up your weapons, also to test out more weapon builds and create your own unique Witcher gameplay style with the abilities and the Witcher signs that you want to invest in and learn. The addition of the Schools of Links will definitely bring in more sorcery elements than ever here. So I hope that does play a huge part in the game's combat system overall. Now, before anybody says that I'm saying this because I'm a huge Elden Ring fan, I'm just simply want to clear up that The Witcher has always been about exploration as well. The main issue that persists for most players with The Witcher exploration is in fact that is over-focused on going from one location to the other when you do the quests. However, I want to be a bit more organic, with the map being designed with this factor in mind. The game's world should have landmarks easily visible throughout the world as you move through it. I don't want to overly rely on a mini-map, so I can toggle on and off, so I can just, go down my waypoint to where I should be going. Instead, I wish for a larger variety of locations to explore, a much bigger variety of things to see and interact with, a much more vivid and visual sense of journey where it comes to going from one location to the other within this world. I would really love it if the map was completely different to what we've known of the continent. It was hinted at through an art image that we would be heading into perhaps some sort of an uncharted territories. I hope to explore the different realms and with the different races that inhabit them, along with the finding new NPCs and quests to engage in within my travels. Please consider supporting me on my Patreon to see these special videos earlier, including with the additional rewards. And check out my playlist of all of my special videos that I already have released. I'm very proud of them, and do let me know what you think of them. And as such, please like and subscribe, and have an amazing day.